Back here at Chase Stadium, no ports of Miami this week, but one thing that is still the same is the success of the club. Another win to talk about for Inter Miami here on this week's edition of the Inter Miami Weekly Show. I'm sorry, it's not as cool as the helicopters and planes of last week out in the cruise port in Miami and Fleet Week, but we are home again here at Chase Stadium with the great Kieran Gibbs. I'm Joe Malfa. Glad to have you with us for this one once again on the Inter Miami Weekly Show. And Kieran, the conversation has been the same from us for the last month, and we want to keep it that way. It's off of another win. This one 3-2 on the road against Montreal. The group again showed great resolve after going down 2-0, battling back to win 3-2. I feel like we could probably cut up some of the conversations we've had on this show over the last month and just splice them together and come up with this week's show because it's a lot more of the same, but another big win.
Yeah, it is. They're certainly taking the crown for the comeback kings of the league so far. Yet again, slow out of the blocks, but they found a way. They found a way through commitment, experience, and that know-how and that individual brilliance that we saw. I'm sure we'll see in the highlights. Wow, what a free kick! I think that's gonna be the standout of the night. But these types of games. They are gaining. You gain more belief actually in these types of games where you're not playing so well. We mentioned a couple of weeks, didn't we? Sometimes when you're not getting the performances that you want, but you're still getting the results. That's what title winners are.
Yep.
That's what they do. You're going to go through periods where you're not playing your best, but if they can keep that momentum and belief with games where they're not playing so well, they will definitely put themselves in a great position to go on and win the league. So happy days at the moment.
You mentioned we're going to probably see that goal in the highlights. We will, but we're going to have to watch a couple of Montreal goals first because they started fast once again in the early going. It was a great capacity crowd once again in Montreal. That's become the norm for Inter Miami anywhere they go on the road, so they're more than used to it now, that type of environment. I still don't know how Messi saw this pass to Gressel. He continues to amaze in that regard. Never even looked that way. Gressel maybe could have done better, but then it was Montreal who settled in and really took control of that first half early on.
They did, and apart from this free kick and Gressel's chance, it wasn't really much in it for Miami, and you have to give credit to Montreal. They did control the game in the early parts, and it was a nice bit of play for this first goal, and yeah, it just took Miami again a while to really get into the game, but obviously, listen, it's only a moment of magic from any of those players at the moment, and things can turn around so quickly.
This is where they went down 2-0 then again with the Vilsaint goal, but just as you mentioned, that's how quickly it could turn, because then there's this.
I mean, pretty incredible that Messi wasn't on the pitch for the 2 minutes that the free kick came about. What a special free kick it was. And then this, the experience of Suarez always on people's shoulders, just trying to cause problems, and to get that goal before half-time really put Miami back in the race to go on and win the game, because as we said, teams they come out fast against Miami, but they run out of gas, and then we saw this bit of fantastic bit of play from Ben-Hur, I think, to get this, after his first touch wasn't the best, he manages to recover and shows great athleticism to beat the keeper and the player that was trying to close him down. So I really like this. I'm so happy for him to get this goal on his first start back for Miami after a frustrating spell out injured. He'll be so pleased with this.
And maybe one of the best parts of this game to watch as a fan for Inter Miami, we really closed it down after that goal. There weren't too many opportunities for Montreal. In fact, maybe the better of the opportunities were for Inter Miami to go up 4-2 instead of equalize at 3-3. And that's got to be something positive to take away from this. Even though we started slow, going down 2-0, once we took that lead, we continued on and really shut the door defensively.
Yeah, their game management in most games, actually, in the second half has been pretty good this season. It's just the first half where they get the slow starts. But I thought that they controlled the game really well in the second half in this game, and it's not easy, when you've worked so hard to get back into the game to try and see the game out. I thought they've been brilliant at that, so definitely something that will be key when they get further in competitions and further in the league.
And Ben-Hur Kramaski spoke about his goal after the game. It really meant a lot to him. He had a long road back from his injury. Now he's out there and scoring big goals.
Y yo obviamente contento por la victoria más que nada y por el gol. siento que tuve un buen segundo tiempo. El primer tiempo me costó entrar al partido. Los primeros minutos por ahí me faltaba un poco de concentración, pero bueno, por lo menos tuve esa capacidad para salir de esa y poder marcar el gol decisivo.
It's Benja Cremaschi after the game about what it meant to him to get that goal. And Kieran, we talked a lot about Messi missing some time earlier in the year when that spell of difficult form came for the team. You think about that loss to the Red Bulls and some of the other results that came around that time. But it wasn't just Messi who was out during that time. They were missing Cremaschi. They were missing Campana, among others, when the injury bug really bit. And we always talked about Cremaschi being the under-the-radar one that the group maybe missed the most. His youthfulness, the ground he covers, the role he plays creatively. Starting to see that now that he's back, maybe just exactly how much he was missed when he was gone.
Yeah, definitely. Him joining the front man is his biggest attribute, I think. Like you say, the ground he covers, he has that ability and the physical capacity to support the front man and break beyond the back four, which is so important when you don't have a front man that runs in behind a lot. And so he provides that for Miami, and he opens up a lot of space for Lionel Messi to come in and do what he does, and Robert Taylor, who is not more of a player that likes to go in behind as well. He's the one that can open that space up for those creative players, but he also can play. He's also got the ability, the technical ability to get in between pockets and get running at players. So I think it's been really good to have him back, and that goal will do in the world of confidence. I hope he kicks on from here.
Matias Rojas, speaking of confidence right now, when he joined, we knew that he would bring a different element, more direct in his play, and just brought a spark that maybe the attack was lacking in terms of that fire, that energy that when Farias got hurt and Gomez then got hurt, sort of left the group a little bit. Rojas has brought it back. He's played 3 games now, 131 minutes, 3 goals and an assist, and then you've got that free kick on top of things. There's not much we can really say other than he's been maybe the best addition who didn't formerly play for Barcelona that this club has brought in over the last year.
100% agree. 100% agree. The only problem with him is how long he can keep hold of him. To be honest, he is that good. He is that good. I mean, what a goal! It was just, I haven't seen a free kick in that kind of fashion from that far out. The way he bent it was absolutely unbelievable. He is definitely the signing of that caliber that you would say for me. Fantastic, cultured left foot. Loves to be in between the lines, loves to get turning and running at players. I think he's been an amazing addition, and I can't wait to see more of him this season.
And he works so hard, too, because he's also created a couple of goals by getting stuck in. Think back a few games ago when he was at the end line, got stuck in, pulled the ball back. Last game he had the chip that was kind of created by him, that whole sequence. So it's the hard work he's doing off the ball in addition to what he's able to do on the ball.
Yeah, he just wants to make things happen. He doesn't shy away from the ugly side of the game, and when you've got a player with that quality that can also do the other side of the game, you kind of get the full package, and that's what we're seeing at the moment.
And you mentioned that Messi was off the field for that Rojas free kick. I want to talk a bit about that because a couple of weeks ago you and I just laid out for all of you at home watching what those new rules are in MLS to kind of limit time wasting at the ends of games, where if you're down and need treatment for more than 15 seconds, you come off the field for 2 minutes. That's one of the rules. The other one being the substitution rule. You've got 10 seconds to get off the field, or the person coming on to replace you has to stay off for a minute. So those were put in geared towards limiting time wasting. You had mentioned, Kieran, that there could be some adverse effects of that, and this was one of those times. If the rule is geared toward limiting time wasting, you probably shouldn't be penalized if you're losing in the game, right? If you're losing, you almost shouldn't have to lose that player because Messi's clearly not wasting time there. The team is losing 2-0 at that point. He's not trying to waste time, so why should he have to come off? So we mentioned back then that while it's a good rule and it's speeding up the games and it's cutting down on any time-wasting shenanigans, there could be some loopholes here that they would have to patch up. I think this is one. If you're losing, you probably shouldn't have to have your guy come off because you're clearly not trying to waste time.
I think that's the only way to deal with in that scenario is, like you say, if a team's losing, there's no benefit to them, staying down for longer. So that will definitely have to looked at, because fortunately they didn't have to worry about in this one, because Rojas puts in an absolute worldy free kick. But you definitely don't want that. It's such a disadvantage to be a man down. So you definitely want to make sure that situation gets sorted, I think.
And it's a quick turnaround now, because for the first time this season, a midweek regular season game for Inter Miami since the opener when they took on Real Salt Lake. There's been midweeks, of course, with Champions Cup, but this is the first midweek regular season game since that season opener. How does that change things mentally, Kieran, as they get set to take on Orlando in the midweek?
Well, now the games are coming fast, and it's time to really kick on and put in the performances that are matching the results. I think that's what is next for Miami. They've gone through a patch where they're not at their most lethal and their most dangerous that they can be, and most dominant. But they definitely have it in them, because we've seen it, a few weeks ago. So I think that, now's the time to switch it on in terms of, the full, as much of the game as possible, to really put a stamper on the Eastern Conference and let everyone know that they're about their business this time.
It's still a rivalry game against Orlando, but we remember how it went last time. It was that 5-0 earlier in the year on this field, and it could have been probably 8-0 when that day was all said and done. It was total dominance from the club. Ends up 5-0. Orlando is going to want to get them back, but Orlando right now is in a really tough spell of form. They're sitting down in 12th place. As much as they want to get Inter Miami back, I don't know if they're capable of doing it right now. They just haven't showcased the form. Anyway, they're coming off of a win over Philadelphia on the weekend, but they really haven't shown many signs of life, Orlando, since they took that beating.
No, and I mean, even when you go 2-0 up against Miami, it's
right.
You kind of still feel like you got a mountain to climb still, with the quality that they have. So it's difficult for any side to come up against Miami at the moment. That's just the reality. But still a derby game. And we know what the derby games can bring. They always bring that fire, that grit, and pride is still on the line. So it would still be a test for Miami.
And that's on Wednesday, of course, on the road against Orlando. So anybody who wants to make the road trip up, go on ahead. Then they come back on Saturday at home against DC United at 7:30. They're coming in a little bit hotter than Orlando. They're sitting above the playoff spots right now in 7th place. Christian Benteke, somebody you had to play against in your career, he's coming off of a hat trick for DC United, a 3-2 win over Atlanta, and he scored all 3 goals in the air with his head. So that is something that Inter Miami is going to have to contest with on the weekend.
Definitely. And as we know, it's still an area of the set pieces that Miami want to improve. So that's going to be very alarming for the boys. But hopefully Tata gets his cards right and gets the boys prepared. Probably
a player you didn't like playing against, huh? He seems like a beast, Benteke.
Definitely not. Definitely not. He's just one of those players that once he gets a run on you, you really have no chance. If the delivery's good, that is his speciality, and he's shown it all through the years. He's a maverick when it comes to set pieces and headers, and anything in the air. Even with his magical bicycle kicks that he scored over the years, he's a wonderful player.
As a player, how aware are you of the numbers? So coming into that game on the weekend, things might change, of course, because both teams play in the midweek. But as of right now, as we sit here talking about it, it's Chicho Arango of Real Salt Lake on 11 goals. And then it's Benteke and Luis Suarez also on 11 goals. So you're going to have 2 guys on the field on Saturday who are tied with each other or potentially within a goal of each other in the Golden Boot race. How aware are you of that as a player going into a game? Not that you were a striker, obviously, ever in a Golden Boot race, to be fair, but you know what I'm talking about here. How aware are you of a player as some of the stats about the guy you're going up against?
Yeah, definitely. Because even as a defender, you're aware of that, because you know the men in form are the ones that you want to keep the most quiet. So when you have someone who's scored a hat trick of headers, you should probably work on defensive set pieces and in training with open crosses and defending the width of your goal is going to be so important, because Benteke doesn't really come out wide anymore. He's a guy that likes to stay in between the posts and do most of his damage from there. So that's where the defenders need to be aware.
So a derby in the midweek, and then a tough one on the weekend against a DC United team that is really finding form right now. If Inter Miami can keep the good times going, it's 5 straight wins. That's a club record right now. It's 3 straight wins on the road. That's a club record right now. And they're unbeaten in 7 overall. They're chasing that record that they set last year, including the Leagues Cup of 12. So things have been going great for the club right right now. We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Inter Miami Weekly Show here inside the club room on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV.